let's go into the big boy, the 3:30 game, the cocktail party, a game that you and I have attended many times in person. And um, let me just tell everybody here, if you've never been to this, uh, this is a spectacle that you need to see, and you probably need to do it sooner rather than later because I don't know how much longer this game is going to be played in Jacksonville,
Mhm.
and it is a unique flavor of college football lore, and to be able to be there is to understand what this rivalry is all about. Um, that this is a border war, and oh, by the way, Georgia's starting quarterback, guess where he's from? Jacksonville, Florida, where this game's played. How about that? Um, and you can look back throughout the history of this game, and you can see tons of Georgia quarterbacks who have been from the state of Florida and vice versa. So it really is a field full of guys that have competed against each other in a lot of cases throughout middle school and high school, and all these guys know each other, man. And it can tend to be a bit of a nasty game. And I think a lot of people think of a rivalry game and they think close games, and usually, it seems to me like usually the better team in this rivalry beats the crap out of the other one pretty good.
Yeah.
Um, that's usually how this one goes. And hey, I've been in that stadium whenever Georgia's gotten beat by double digits, and I've been there whenever Georgia's beat them. I've been there before and been about 10 minutes late to my seat, and Georgia's already up 21-0. Okay,
Yeah.
um, I think you probably remember that game.
Oh, yeah.
I barely remember it. My God.
Vaguely. I barely remember walking into the stadium.
Oh, man, I
The
tell you
it is a
what.
tailgate, folks. It is definitely a tailgate, but, you mentioned how it seems to get very one-sided very quickly. Like,
Yeah,
it's split, it's 50-50. Momentum swings are huge in this game. You can get
yeah,
down quickly, and it is a look, this is a rivalry game. We're lucky to have a rivalry game this big in October. Most of those are reserved for November, but this is one of the best in the land and one of the best venues in the land. I'm torn as to whether or not it should be played in Jacksonville every single year. I'd like to see a home and neutral, home neutral. That'd be really fun for me, but that would take a lot of the lore out of it too. So I definitely enjoy my time in Jacksonville when we do get to go to these games.
yeah. We had talked yesterday, and I was telling you, man, I wish we could be there this year, and we will be getting our way back there because I'll be making sure that my kids understand that tradition of that game. And we've always talked about we're gonna, as soon as our kids are old enough to, be able to be in an environment like that, and it be, not completely inappropriate, then we'll take them and make them understand what that rivalry really means because it does mean a lot to all the Georgia and Florida folks. And look, these hotels are booked up like a year in advance. Okay. Um, Everybody, please give us a like and a subscribe real quick. We're only 15 subscribers away from 100. Okay. And that's not a lot of subscribers. Okay. There's a lot more people that watch these videos than 100 people. So, we just need you guys' help to get to 100 and then 500 and 1,000. We're going to keep working at it. We're going to keep bringing the content, and we're going to enjoy it together. So please do that for me, and and we'll keep it going here. Um, Let me just kind of tell you what my thoughts are on this real quick. So as the as I've looked at this game, I wanted to go back and I wanted to take a look at Florida in some of their games and see how they were going to match up against the style that I feel like Georgia is going to be playing in this game. And Georgia seems has kind of converted over to a throw to open up the run type of approach, right? They're throwing the ball a lot more than they're running it. In the case of the Kentucky game, if you really take away, the time at the end of the game when they're just trying to run the clock, you're talking about they were throwing the ball, 2/3 of the time, right? And they're not always deep down the field. They're not always in the middle. Sometimes they're behind the line of scrimmage. But Georgia's using the passing game as an extension of the run game and to open up the actual run game, right? So I wanted to go back on Florida's schedule, and I wanted to see what team has Florida played this year that has got a good passing attack. Well, it's not Utah, right? It's not McNeese State. It's not Charlotte. Um, it's not Tennessee. Okay. It's not Kentucky. The best passing attack that this Florida Gators team has played so far this year is Vanderbilt. And when they played Vanderbilt, they gave up just about 300 yards passing,
Yeah.
right? Um, and I think this game is going to really depend on Jalen Kimber, who is a ex UGA guy, right? Who's transferred over to Florida. Um, and there's two other corners, and I my notebook got left at home, unfortunately. But it was Johnson, and there was another one on the other side that got tore up pretty good in that game against Vanderbilt. So how is the Florida secondary and these cornerbacks going to match up with this wide receiver group that I think is I don't think people understand the dudes that are in the Georgia's wide receiver room. Yeah, I don't think there's like a first round guy. I mean, obviously you had Brock Bowers, he's out, and we'll talk about that as Georgia moves on, at life without Brock Bowers for a little while, right? It's what Georgia has done pretty much every year they've won a championship. They've had to move on from somebody
Yeah.
and make it without them. So this isn't anything new for Georgia and Kirby Smart. They've recruited at a really high level. There's not going to be a tight end that's going to step up and be what a Brock Bowers is, but I think this is an opportunity for a lot of the guys to step up in their roles, and it be a collective effort amongst those wide receivers. Hopefully, we're going to see some more of McConkey. We're coming off of a bye week for Florida and Georgia, so I'm expecting this to be minus Brock Bowers, probably about the healthiest we've seen Georgia in a while. So, uh, with all that being said, I think this really is going to depend on this Florida defense. How are they going to handle this passing attack? And I don't see it working out well for them. And I think Vegas agrees with the double digit point spread here. What's your outlook on this game, and how do you see this going down? And then kind of take us through the numbers of what you found, and we'll kind of give our takes on what we think the outcome will be against the spread and all that type of stuff.
Well, you mentioned the fact that they haven't faced a strong passing attack outside of, well, they really haven't faced a strong passing attack. The strongest
Yep.
they face is Vanderbilt.
Those
And
Commodores have got that air raid, baby.
yeah, but if you look at these numbers, they could be a little bit misleading if you don't recognize the fact that they face mostly run first offenses. So when you look at their passing defense, they're 21st in the country. They're only averaging 187.6 yards per game given up. But if you were to cross reference that to the teams that they've played, they're not passing a lot. They're not getting, probably more than 200 yards passing per game. So you kind of have to add some perspective to some of these numbers, and also I'll say this: these numbers are heavily one-sided, right? Georgia leads in, I think, every category. There's red zone conversion. Okay. Florida's got them in that, I guess. But at the end of the day, this is a rivalry game. And a lot of these numbers are, you can kind of throw out the door, because I think this is a big game. There's a lot of emotions in it. And folks, Georgia is going to get beat at some point. They've won 29 games in a row or something crazy. They're going to get beat at some point. I'm not saying it happens this weekend, but eventually it's going to happen, and they're going to take a regular season loss eventually. I know that hasn't happened in a while. But
It's crazy to be saying those words because we've been Georgia fans a long time, and for us to be sitting here saying Georgia is eventually going to lose a regular season game, like that just wouldn't have even computed with me a few years ago. But that is where this Georgia squad has gotten to at this point, and that's where the expectations are. And it to this day it blows my mind, and it will forever blow my mind.
right. So, but I mean, when you go by the numbers, Georgia's going to pass the ball. They could run the ball if they want to. They can be multiple. I don't. I guess my question in this game is, what does Georgia want to do? Are they going to run the ball? Kentucky gave you the blueprint for that. We know that this team, Florida can be had if you want to run the ball. So do they say, hey, no Brock Bowers? Um, so let's try to rush the ball a little bit better, see if we can get better in that area. Or did they say, hey, here's an opportunity to get some wide receivers the ball that may get overshadowed by the Avenger number 19 himself, Brock Bowers? I hope it's the latter. It makes for a more fun offense to see the kind of the high flying stuff, and of course, look, we're Georgia fans. We'd love nothing more than to run the score up on Florida. We've like Mark said, we've been to that game plenty of times. We've been on the opposite end of that. Back
Yep.
in Kirby's first year, it was pretty bad coming out of that stadium. So anytime we get a chance to go win big in that game, I love to see it. It is always fun, and every other week. I mean, look, I'm a college football fan first and foremost. I love to see Florida do well. We want them to win every game outside of Georgia, and I know whatever team you're a fan of, you've got your rivals. That's why we love this sport, and we're not going to shy away from our fanhood on this show. And we can cheer the Florida Gators on some other day, but it doesn't happen on this Saturday, not the last Saturday in October. So, but yeah, so for my prediction on this game, you see the over under is set at 47. I think that's way too low. I think Georgia could get there on their own, honestly, in this game. And but it goes back to, are they going to want to run the ball? If they want to run the ball all game, I mean, this could be a 36-17 game, or something like that, which would still be a cover. But if they want to pass the ball, I mean, Georgia could score 50. I think, on Florida this week. And then Georgia's a 14.5-point favorite. If you could find this at 14, I'd say take it. I think that hook adds a little seed of doubt. But if I were to pick one way or another, I would pick Georgia to cover this. I think Florida's got some momentum right now, but Georgia is the superior team, and I think that they're going to show up in Jacksonville ready to play. And I think this is going to be kind of the Carson Beck show coming out. He doesn't have that check down to Bowers. They're not going to be able to go to him. And, in the pass and attack, it's going to be on him. And I think that what Kirby is going to want to do in this game is continue to build that confidence with Carson Beck, give him another 300-plus passing yard game under his belt in his own backyard. His first time playing in the stadium since he was 11. He lost that game. I don't know that matters, but he's going to want to play. He's going to want to come out and play, and I'm sure that the Georgia football team is going to want nothing more than to go out there behind their quarterback and help him have a good outing. So give me Georgia big in this game, and I think that the over will hit as well.
Yeah. So here, just for the sake of the Florida fans, I want to, because this is a college football community, and we are Georgia fans, but I want to kind of talk about, I want to kind of talk about what the way to victory for Florida would be in this game. And as a Georgia fan, you can take this to the bank. This is how you've got to beat Georgia this year specifically. Florida's offensive line has got to play out of their mind. They got to play out of their stinking mind. And there's no star Jalen Carter in the middle of this Georgia defense, right? There's nobody to absorb 2 blocks and keep blocks off of the second level linebackers and things like that. Offensive line has got to go man up, and then they got to get to the second level, and they got to run the football, and they cannot let Carson Beck have a ton of possessions in this game. If Georgia has 4 or 5 possessions a quarter, it's not going to be good. It's not going to be good for Florida. It's going to get ugly. Florida has to sustain drives, move the chains on offense. That is the way to beat, I think, And it's easier said than done because this Georgia defense, while it's not what it was the last 2 years, it's really hard to line up and run the ball against them. But the way Florida throws the ball behind the line of scrimmage, I think is the way that you have to handle this Georgia team. They have speed. You've got to get the ball to the outside quickly. And Florida has done that a lot this year. Lots of Grand Mertz completions were a yard, beyond the line of scrimmage or behind the line of scrimmage and then picked up yards that way. That's the way that Florida's done it this year. Gonna have to so I include that in the run game. That's an extension of the run game. It's gonna come up as receiving yards, but we know what that is. And I think if Florida can do that, um, and have a good strategy to do that and keep Georgia guessing, hit with play action every once in a while. You're gonna have to hit on the play action though. You can't just throw and expect Georgia to respect it. You're gonna have to hit one or two before Georgia's gonna respect it. But if you can do that, you will open up this Georgia defense a little bit, and it's gonna be game on.
Mhm.
Defensively, Florida's got to get a couple turnovers. Florida gets 2 turnovers in this game, and they rush the ball for over 150 yards. They'll win this game. They can win this game. It's very possible, or definitely cover the spread in that case, 100%. Um, Now, on the other hand of that, we talked about this earlier this year when we came up with a couple rules earlier this year, and we'll move on to this next game. Tennessee has to run the ball for 160 yards a game to win. Florida, if they have 2 turnovers, they're gonna lose. They have to play efficient football. This team doesn't have wiggle room. They don't have deep strike capability. They have one wide receiver, Ricky Pearsall, that is very dangerous, mind you, but there's only one guy like that to worry about on this wide receiver core. So, the keys to Florida's victory, the run game, the extension of the run game, right? Spreading Georgia out. You're not going to be able to run into the teeth of this Georgia defense, I don't think. I don't think that line's this good. The offensive line has got to play out of their mind, and you've got to get a couple turnovers. That's how Florida wins this game right here. And that's a pretty tough recipe to put together, I think. But look, this is the Georgia Florida game. Turnovers are a big deal in this one. Rarely does somebody lose the turnover battle and win this game. Let's move on. Oregon. Oh, and I'll give you my pick. I'm taking Florida plus 14.5, but I'm taking Georgia to win. The more I think about this is a lot of points, and I think Florida probably can have some success sustaining drives and earning some time of possession and keeping that Georgia offense off the field some. Give me the plus 14.5. I think Georgia wins by 10 or 13 or 14. But I'm telling you right now, Florida turns the ball over or they can't sustain drives, Georgia will whoop that ass. I'm telling you right now.